Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a cute little squirrel for autumn. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, and I'll show you step by step how to do it from start to finish. Got my husband, Mark, with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's been in chat today, so if you've got questions, you can ask those, and I'll try to answer. Let's get started. Alrighty, so I'm going to be using a 9 by 12 inch canvas board today. This is the Fredrix Mixed Media canvas board, and I've painted it with a very light coat of burnt umber. I just used a paper towel and kind of wiped about maybe that much on, sprayed it with a little bit of water, and just kind of smushed it around to give me a dark ground on my background of my canvas, and then transferred onto the canvas, the drawing. And then I covered it with matte medium, but you really probably don't have to do that. I just did it just to seal it in real good. For brushes, you're just going to want some sort of brush that can give you fur texture. So you could use a textured brush, and that'll give you kind of a thicker, maybe not as fine of hairs. If you want really fine hairs, you're going to want to use either like a liner brush to do them individually, which will take you a long time, but can be done. Or like a very fine fan brush or a rake comb. This is called a Filbert grainier, one of these brushes that have the separations in there already built in. So it makes it really easy to do fur textures and things like that much quicker. So something like that to do your fur, and then to do your eye and some of the other details and the smaller details in the hand. I'll have a couple of smaller rounds. These are all Princeton brushes, the VelvetTouch in the red handles, and then the blue handled one here I showed was the 1/4 inch Filbert grainier in the Select in Princeton brush. And then for our background, where we're doing that kind of blurry leaf background, I'll be using a Deerfoot Stippler. This is a 3/8 inch Deerfoot Stippler, and that'll help with kind of that blurry effect. And then I also grabbed a few of my Filberts in the longer handles. These are the Summit Series, 6100 Summit Series, for some of the leaves in the front, and possibly just to block in some of the color back here. So, and I also grabbed these two because these are the Aspen Series. They're kind of a faux hog bristle brush. They're synthetic, so they don't get soggy in water like a regular hog bristle brush would do, but they will make the texture as well on the fur. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to use. I just usually kind of grab a bunch of brushes that I think I might need, and then I'll use them. I'll introduce them as I need them, as I use them. Okay, let's go over our colors real quick. Got carbon black burnt umber, burnt sienna, quinacridone burnt orange, yellow oxide, and this one is a transparent yellow oxide, but you could use either regular or transparent. This is raw sienna, and if you don't have that one, just substitute it for the yellow oxide and add a little brown. It's fine. This one is, which one is that? Indian Yellow Hue, Cadmium Orange, Cadmium Red Light, Quinacridone Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, and this is Unbleached Titanium in the heavy body acrylics. All these are the golden heavy body acrylics. This one is the golden fluid acrylic in Titan Buff, so it's a little bit softer. This one actually is a Liquitex color. I take that back. This one is the only one that I have that I use that's Liquitex. It's a little bit more of a deeper color. You can see kind of the tone of the Titan Buff is just slightly off, but they can kind of be interchanged. Titanium white, and then this is titanium white in the fluid, which will be easier with the fur. So I put the two fluid colors down, to use when we do our fur, because it'll just make it easier. And then got glazing liquid. All right. Phew, that was fast. All right.
That was fast.
Welcome if you are new to our channel. We're happy to have you along for our live stream, and we just kind of go through this live from start to finish, like as if you're hanging out in the studio with us. So sometimes we talk about things not art related, and that's so just be warned. But hopefully you'll enjoy it, and subscribe and come back. We do these live twice a week.
Yeah, and at the very beginning of the show, you're talking about how you're putting in the background, and you use the advanced painting technique term smush. So are you going to go over that, or is that a whole separate video?
It's it's too advanced for this video.
Okay. All right. Sorry, everybody.
We'll do it another time.
Okay. Thanks. So you're mixing some colors together there?
Got white and Indian yellow hue. So, and I'm just going to go over this. Now we're going over the dark color here with our light color. So we may have to do these parts a couple of times, but I actually kind of wanted to do it this way so that a little bit of that dark kind of can show through. It just kind of gives it a different effect. And I'm going to paint around my little chipmunk here. No, it's chipmunk, squirrel. Sorry, get it right. Get it right.
Squirrel.
So the squirrel people, don't leave me comments.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get bad.
I'm still getting comments about that Farmall tractor painting. I got a comment the other day about it. I painted that. It's got to be at least 4 years old, something like that. I don't know, maybe not that long ago, but feels like it.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting comments about what kind of tractor it is.
It's the most controversial painting she's ever done.
Oh my gosh. It's like, wow.
Who knew you were such an edgy
Who
artist?
Who knew that tractors were so controversial? It's hilarious.
Do not mess.
I better know exactly what make and model of tractor that I am painting next time, or I will hear from it for years. It's hilarious. Tractor people are intense.
Hey,
They're serious about it.
they're all in.
All right. I'm adding some burnt orange here and a little bit of this yellow oxide and just making kind of reddish tones. So I'm going to really kind of use all of these colors for my leaf background. So kind of all my reds and browns here in different shades. Honestly, doesn't matter what combination you use. So it's kind of up to you. This part is pretty easy, fun, hopefully. Don't stress out too much. Don't use too much paint at first. So, I'm kind of going on fairly light with the coats of paint. And just kind of adding them where I'm seeing my lighter colors.
Yeah, 4 years ago.
4 years ago?
May of
Tractor.
2017.
There we go. It is I think it's probably the oldest video that I still get regular comments about. It was very interesting.
Okay.
All right, so just using these lighter colors here, and I'm going over the top of the tail. I kind of drew in the tail there, so I'm going a little bit over the top because that color kind of comes in underneath. The tail part comes over the top of that, so you want to be sure that you've got that color well into that fur because it's so fluffy.
Yeah, 2 Disney references.
So fluffy.
So fluffy. And Squirrel.
Squirrel, yeah.
All right, for those who are watching live, what movies are those?
I don't know about the fluffy. We use it all the time, but I don't.
Don't blurt.
I don't remember.
Okay, don't blurt.
I won't. All right, using burnt sienna and the burnt orange here. Going to use that and just kind of lightly go over. Now, wherever I'm kind of meeting up with this yellow, if I kind of just feather it over the top, see how I'm kind of lightly lifting as the brush kind of hits that part, and that'll kind of give it a softer edge. And I did that all along these outer areas too of my lighter color here, my yellowish color also, and that kind of helps make it easier to blend in the next color if you don't have a really hard line there.
Okay, so Mima got plus 5 points. And I got up. And Echo got plus 5 points for the Despicable Me.
Despicable Me. Okay, I was going to say Nemo, so I was right. I was way off. I was way off.
No,
I'm glad I didn't embarrass myself.
When she wins that toy at the fair, she's like, "It's so fluffy."
Oh, okay. It's funny the movies that we adopt into our everyday lingo. You know, we've got certain movies that, for a while there, we had a lot of Napoleon Dynamite going on. All right, getting some yellow back. So kind of going back and forth here, adding some more of this yellow back in, maybe a little bit brighter yellow, just a slightly different tone. And they don't have to match exactly. So if you're, if you've done all this yellow and then you come back to it and you're like, oh, I have to match this color exactly to do it. You don't have to. Just get it as close as you can and, just put a little bit over the top and move on. It doesn't have to be exact. The main thing we just kind of want is our borders to be kind of soft and fluffy. So this is pretty much how I'm going to leave it, I think. I'm going to leave it kind of just slightly with these brush strokes showing and a little bit impressionistic style maybe. So I'm not going to get too fancy with the background and have to be exactly the way that it is in our photograph. We'll just get it close and be good enough.
Your leaves fell on the ground a little bit differently than the picture. Right,
exactly. So just doing our own interpretation of it here.
And we officially are in fall.
We are, and our weather it's like
on the first day of fall.
It was so nice.
It was like 54 degrees.
I know. Our weather was like, oh, okay. Well, it like overnight, literally went from really hot to beautiful. It's great. Mm-hmm. We've got about, I would say about 2 months in the fall and 2 months in the spring where we get pretty decent weather on a regular basis. And then it goes cold. Cold or hot, blazing hot and humid. So, all right, I just kind of went back over these ears because I kind of covered up a little bit of them with my thing there. I didn't want to lose my drawing. There we go. Okay. This brush is getting a little bit big, so I'll probably switch over here in a minute, but I'm going to get some of the Cadmium Red Light, and that'll give me a brighter orangey red for some of these areas here. I'm going to add the Quinacridone Burnt Orange to it, so I have a really nice deep, there we go, pretty red. Look at how pretty that is. Okay, so let's switch over here. Just kind of feather that out like I did. Feather it out over. It doesn't matter if this is perfect right here. We're going to go over it again, so we don't have to get it just right. Just as long as we don't leave like this really hard, sharp line like that, because that would be hard to blend into. This is going to be real easy to blend into. We just get our color and we can go back over it the same way and it'll blend right out. But this, we'd have to go over it multiple times to kind of get that softness to happen. So just kind of watch that as you go. Just do small sections at a time and always kind of go back and forth like this, real soft, and letting that brush kind of blend out your edges so you get these soft kind of blendy areas here. It's if you want that blurry look. And if you don't, you can do, more firm brush strokes and leave, maybe use a smaller brush and leave more, distinct brush strokes like this, in different places. And I love that look too. So it's just up to you what you do with your background here. It's all kinds of different possibilities. Lots of fun. Don't let it stress you out. And sometimes you're going to have a heavier hand. So if you're going, if you're one that like loads up your paint really thicker than I do here, and you're having a hard time getting this wispy look, then go with something a little bit more bold, Doesn't have to be exactly like mine. Do what comes naturally to you. I always tell my students, don't fight it, because there are people, and I'm using the, raw sienna here with the burnt umber, and I still had some of that yellow in my brush, so I'm going to use it over here. So we're just, again, using all these different colors. But I'm often especially when I would have the in-person classes, Of course, online I don't get to see exactly what you are doing because I'm not sitting there right next to you able to help you along. But in my in-person classes, I often would have people, students who would come in and they would just be much thicker with the paint. They'd load it up much thicker than I did. And sometimes they, had a little bit more trouble doing these kind of techniques. And I always just kind of tried to tell them, that maybe this kind of style of this kind of soft and blendy or ultra realistic may not be as easy for them. So maybe, think about doing some more kind of type impressionist type work or something like that. You use your strengths. I have a harder time doing kind of impressionist work because I tend to get bogged down in details and things, but I really love that style. And sometimes when I try to paint that way, it's harder for me. And it would be the same thing for somebody who that style would come naturally to, to do this style might be a little harder for them. So when you're first learning, I would say just kind of try a bunch of different things. And if the way I'm doing it is a little bit difficult for you, then you might try a little bit heavier hand with it or different style or, I've got all kinds of different paintings and all kinds of different styles of painting in my tutorials. So I'm sure there'll be something out there that you can work on. All right. I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, there's a nice tank video out there. We'll link it.
Yeah. That tank video was like... It tanked.
It did
exactly.
tank.
It tanked. Tank video tanked.
But, you didn't have half the people, telling you what type of tank it was.
True.
It ain't no tractor.
I did have somebody leave me a really nasty note in German, though, about it. I do remember that. It was hilarious. He was very, very angry about the tank, and I don't know what he said, but it was very, I interpreted the first couple of sentences and was like, nope, don't need to read that. We're moving on. I'm just going to delete it. Oh my gosh. I upset somebody. So, yeah. It's
we're already
funny, the things that set people off.
We're already at 7,000 views on that video.
Wow.
After 2 years.
Smoking.
See, we have many. 352 thumbs up.
How many thumbs down?
27.
Well, that's not bad. That's a good average.
I can just put my phone over there next to what you're painting so people can watch it at the same time. No? Okay.
No, it's okay. We're good. All right. Added a little bit more brown. Now, as we come to the foreground, we're getting a little bit more contrast, a little bit wider range of colors, a little bit more darks and more lights. So our values are getting more contrasted and dramatic. And that's normal in nature. Things that are farther away, a little bit more blurry, a little bit less saturated, and you won't see as much contrast. And then as they get closer to you, they're going to get more resolved, more clear in focus, and also your values will get more of a range. So in our background, we may have values that range, in here somewhere, or maybe, here to here, or here to here, something like that. In our foreground, we could have values from here all the way to here. Does that make sense? So our foreground is going to have this much richer range of colors and lights and darks naturally, and that's just kind of how our eyes perceive things. So if we do that on purpose here, and it isn't that way in our photograph, but if we kind of make sure that these foreground areas have these darker darks and lighter lights, we'll kind of reinforce that automatically, and our brain will automatically push this into the background. Does that make sense? So we're kind of manipulating the scene to making sure that we are following that rule, so that these things that are farther away look a little bit more muted and closer together in value. And then our leaves that are in focus in front here, we can do just pretty much whatever colors we want. Lots of detail. Okay, getting that darker. So I went in with a little bit of that cadmium orange there to try to get a little bit of more of an orangey. But I still have these other colors on my brush, so it's not bright orange per se. Okay.
So what do we got going on tomorrow?
Tomorrow we are going to be finishing up our sunflower from our bonus video. I'll show it. We got just a little bit, maybe an hour, maybe less, left on these few leaves here to finish this up. This is our bonus video for patrons, $5 and up. Over on patreon.com/AngelaFineArt. You can sign up for that if you're interested. But yeah, so we'll be doing that. And then afterwards, we're going to be doing bingo for our patrons. So we'll be giving away some gift cards, Amazon gift cards, and some Fredrix and Princeton goodies, things that they've sent us to give away for our patrons. They're our brush and canvas sponsor. They're awesome. They're always very generous with when we do giveaways and things. So, oops, yeah, there's the goodies. Whoa! They have like a shiny glow around them. Yeah. And if you're, if you don't care about bingo, you can't make it, and you are interested in joining Patreon, and you want a full month of membership, then you could wait until October 1st and get a full month, because it runs on a calendar month, so you only get till the end of September if you join today.
That's a month.
I know. I almost said October. I just finished my October schedule, speaking of, so we've got all of our October paintings kind of scheduled out. So you can see those if you're interested. Click on my name or my image there below the video, and it'll take you to my channel homepage. You can see the upcoming live streams that we've got. Be fun. Got some fun Halloween type projects coming up. More fall stuff. Lots of good things. All right. So that looks good. So now I'm going to get the Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Umber and go in here and add some dark shadows just here and there. Just mix those two colors together to make a dark brown black color. Okay, and I'll probably need to let this dry before I do any more layers on it, because it just kind of looking a little bit little bit unfinished. So I'm just going to kind of use this color that's left on my brush to kind of fill in these leaves that are here in the foreground. And then maybe try to kind of go in next to those and sort of soften up the edges of those a little bit. Those dark areas. All right, so I'm going to leave that. It's pretty good, I think. Got a decent start on it at least. It's going to need to dry really well before we do anything else to it. So I'm just going to move on to working on the squirrel. My bruise matches my shirt. I didn't plan that. Color coordination. How about that? As soon as I did that, I was like, I just gave myself a bruise. Told Mark. Walked into the door knob. We have these like lever doorknobs that are really hard metal, and I just went boom. Walked right, grabbed right onto my arm, and it's like turned to Mark. It's like, okay, well, I'll have that in time for Saturday's show. A nice big bruise on my arm, of course. Oh, all right. I should have painted my nails to match. I could have had really done it up. I know. All right, so let me see. Yeah, that's just a little bit tacky. You can kind of feel, if you think it's dry, but you're not sure, you can feel it. And if it feels cold, then it's still drying because it's evaporating. So you can kind of tell what areas, even if they feel dry to the touch, if they're kind of cold, you want to leave them alone. You can usually tell if they'll feel a little tacky too, a little sticky. All right, so let's go ahead and kind of get to work on our little squirrel here. We'll base in his fur, and then I'm sure we'll need to do just a little bit more on our leaves. But I'm going to get black, and got a little bit burnt umber there too. I'm just going to do this area in his tail right here. It's really dark, coming out and down into the leaves. And then where it overlaps the leaves, I'm just going to kind of pull out this way. And set that brush down and just kind of fluff it out. Yeah, that's going to make my fur texture for me. And I'm just looking at my reference photo and seeing where I'm seeing these really dark colors in my underneath layers. So I'm not looking at the upper layers. I'm looking at what's dark, where my darkest darks are in my squirrel here. So I'm seeing these dark areas right up along this body here. And it's actually on the body itself too, but I'm going to go just slightly lighter so that I know where that body is, because there are some highlights on it. So I'm going to put some color on there, but maybe not as dark.
And which brush is that?
This is the 3/8 inch blender. Sorry, I didn't mention that yet. I always have good intentions of mentioning the brushes, and then I always forget. I get going and I forget. Mark has to remind me.
Usually because somebody asks in chat.
Well, good. You guys are keeping me honest there. Stay on it. All right, so I'm going to go almost to the edge, but not quite with this dark here. Almost to the outer edge is just like a little bit of a black area just inside. Right there. And then coming off the underside of the tail, there's some dark. It's really kind of more of a burnt umber, burnt sienna mixture. So I'm going to get some of that. And just do like this. There we go. Cute. Cute. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put some more of this reddish, or use reddish leaves in here. I'm going to use this thicker brush here. It's going to go on a little bit different texture using this brush, so it'll be a little bit more rough textured. Does that make sense? Gonna have more of the brush strokes showing.
And if you need this brush in your life, you can try the brushguys.com
Yes.
/Angela Fine Art. No, just brushguys.com.
Brushguys.com, and then use the code Angela Fine Art at checkout to get 5% off.
Right, and there's a link down below this video that takes you to Angela's suggested brushes.
Yes.
And it'll be in there.
Yeah, and I think it's in the beginner series set, I think. It's either the beginner series or the intermediate series, but it's in one of those series, and they have a discounted price for the set of brushes. It's my most commonly used brushes, so it's got like a angle brushes and some the larger brushes that I use most often. If you get that set and the intermediate set, you and take care of them, you really should be able to do most any of the painting that I do with those brushes. They're kind of the most commonly used ones that I use in my videos. Okay, so going back in now with the same colors, but just kind of bumping up the transitions and contrast here. Get some oranges. Pretty. Okay, let me get some of this. These three. When I get going painting, it's harder for me to say the names. So sorry, I'm just going to point and grunt. Hopefully you'll understand what I'm saying. I'll try. But it's actually, have people that when they paint along, it's actually good to watch it through one time if you're planning on doing this, and take notes and mark, take screenshots of my palette, and then you can remember what I mixed here and here, because a lot of times I go back to that same spot and pick it up again later and use it, and don't mention what it is because I don't even remember what I mixed here, 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago. So I would say anytime that I'm making a new mixture, I would just kind of, like at the beginning of the video, mark out all my colors, and you can see as I'm going which ones I'm grabbing and where I'm mixing them. You could take screenshots and make notes for yourself, make it easier for you to follow along, because sometimes when I'm getting going here, I forget to name them, and I try, but I forget. I'm not perfect, so I'm not a robot. Do the best I can. But again, I get going. Sometimes I forget. Okay, I like it. So right here, let's go ahead and, now that we've got this darker in here, let's go ahead and kind of blend it out a little bit. Do smaller sections, and if you find that you're blending over an area and it's like clumping or not blending really well for you, then just let it dry. Just let it dry completely and come back to it later, because acrylics will get kind of clumpy and sticky when they are drying. And you don't want to mess with them when that's happening, because they'll do weird things. They'll lift and they'll clump together and make a mess.
Got a question regarding the brushes.
Okay.
They would like to know, are your brushes stiff like hog hair brushes, like what you're using there? And do you recommend using a brush like that for acrylic painting?
It depends on what I'm doing. So when I'm doing things like this where I want some texture, then yes, I use a stiffer brush. The ones that are stiffer are the blenders and the Aspen brushes with the black handles. Those will be a stiffer bristle. But then the ones that are this color, that are the brown or the white and this 6100 series, these ones are softer. They're still firm and flexible, like they still snap back. They're not super soft like a watercolor brush, but they are softer than these ones. So those ones are good for blending when you want a really soft touch and don't want a lot of texture to show. This is going to give you texture with these stiffer bristle brushes. So kind of depends on what I'm painting in the painting itself, and I'll pull out different brushes for different things. At times I want that texture, and sometimes I want it to be super soft and blendy, and won't use that. Put some of this darker color around, some of that red around that darker color, I mean. Kind of a buffer between that light color and the darker areas, like there's a little bit of that red in between. Okay. And if you do this and it doesn't look good to you, then just keep adding layers until you like it. So it's not finished until you're happy with it. It doesn't, and I would say it's kind of harder to see when you're right in the middle of it. So as you work, very frequently stop and take a break and look at it from a distance and see what these are looking like. Because with this blended background, sometimes it's really hard to kind of tell how it's looking when you're in the middle of it. You kind of need to look at it at a distance to really get a good read on the effect that you're achieving, if you're getting that blended look or if it's looking a little too stiff. So stepping back can be helpful. Okay. Right, I'm pretty happy with that for the most part. Let's go back to our squirrel here. So I'm going to get some of the Unbleached Titanium and, some Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Umber. And I'm going to make that kind of a gray, and I'm going to use that on the back of the squirrel right here. And then, only like right up next to the tail. And then right here under the arm. The underside of the arm, a little bit up the arm. And again, I'm just kind of looking to see where my darker areas are, where I'm seeing this darker fur in my undertones. Top of the nose. Okay, and then I'm going to get a little bit of that Unbleached Titanium and just pull it through, so I've got the dark and the light on there at the same time. So if you just kind of run it through both colors, I should have a little bit of both colors on there. Yep, there we go. And I'm just going to tap back over that dark area. Short brush strokes. And if you're seeing too much of a clump of the same color, then just do this again. Just kind of run it through real lightly. There we go. And then the hair on the top here is more gray. I'm going to get a little bit of the brown and do it the same way, just kind of a little bit of the burnt umber. Run that through so I have the burnt umber and black, or like this gray, and the unbleached titanium all kind of on at the same time. Let's go ahead and get some of the raw sienna too. What were you saying, hon?
Oh, I thought you were talking about me there for a second when you said
A little bit of gray.
the hair on top is more gray. Yes, you are absolutely right. There's still some there too.
Nice.
Some hair.
You've always had good hair. My hair's doing the same thing, so we're
Yes, it is.
we're COVID. I never really colored my hair much, but every now and then I would get it kind of highlights or something, you know. But something, I don't know if it was the stress of COVID or what, but my hair went gray real fast last year. All right, getting some of the raw sienna and burnt sienna here. I'm just going to use like a little bit of each of these colors. And again, try not to over blend it. So this will actually save me from having to do multiple layers. If I kind of load my brush up in this way where it's got these layers all together, you know, I can kind of do it a little bit faster maybe. That's the idea at least. Okay, getting some more of that gray. Keep the brush strokes very small. And the hairs are going back this way, away from the head, this way, and then down under the belly here, and to the side, right here. And the transition areas are really what you need to kind of watch out for. So when you're meeting up two colors, you want them to overlap just a little bit. So I want to take my gray and put it into my brown just a little bit, and my brown put it over the top of the gray so that I have an area where the two of them meet and there's not like a line of this is gray and then this is, you know, brown. Even though on the animal it kind of looks like that, there is just a slight area of overlap always. So it's much more natural looking if you will have a little bit of an overlap. Okay, I'm going to use the fluid paint, and that'll give me a little bit softer look. This is burnt umber with the unbleached titanium. Come on. Here we go. Come on, do it. Yeah, it's getting a little sticky, so I'm probably going to have to switch brushes. We'll see. It's not wanting to come off on my brush where I want it to come off. Oh, that's a leaf. Okay. Let's get the white. And it's got all kinds of other colors on my brush here, so it's not just white. But I want to go over, scratch over that burnt umber, and some of these are coming this way. Some of them coming straight down from underneath the arm. I'm going in different directions here. There we go. So if I leave a little bit of that burnt umber underneath showing, then I don't have to do as much layers. I don't have to, I've already got that color on there, so I don't have to do it again. All right, I'm going to get the burnt sienna, and this underside is white, but it's being affected by the leaves underneath, so it's turning it reddish. So I'm going to do that part kind of reddish. there. I'm going to get a little bit of that burnt umber and do a little bit darker. If I can get it to do. Here we go. I just need to clean this out. I've got too many layers of paint on there. They're all just clumping on. Okay, that'll be. Much better. That's how it should come off. You shouldn't have to press down too hard for them to come off like that. So, much, much better. So let me get the gray. Do this area kind of gray. Just kind of mixed over into that darker color with this one that already had the whites in it. And then up here, a little bit lighter as it comes up. Our light source is coming down this way, so this part's darker. The light is hitting the back and the back of the head here, so it's lighter too. Okay, let me show you what it looks like with the fan brush, because it'll be a little bit different. It'll be a little bit less thick. It'll be finer lines, finer fur. So, and also when you're doing this, you'll notice I was going this way with it. So when I go this way, I'm going to have a thicker line wherever you start. So if you kind of go in the opposite direction, you'll get finer lines wherever you're lifting. Where you set it down, it'll be thicker, and where you're lifting, it'll be thinner. So if you want to even that out and kind of spread out those bristles or that hair so it's not looking so clumped, then you can just go back over it in the other direction a little bit. Little bitty. These are pretty short, so I don't want too long on these. And you can turn this so that, it's facing the way it's easier for you to hold. I feel like it's probably going to be easier to do it this direction. So you're pulling, in the natural way that you would write. Left-handed, I'm not sure. You're on your own. I'm not sure, lefties, sorry. But for right-handed, I know my dad's lefty too, so I'm sorry, I don't know. All right, going to grandson Liam is, I think, going to be lefty too. He does a lot of stuff with his left hand.
Like puts fruit in his ears?
But yeah, we got a video of him with the fruit in his ears this morning. Mark's sister put tricks up her nose when she was about his age, I think, and ended up in the emergency room. So hopefully he doesn't continue that trend, the family tradition. He's 2 going on 10. Okay. Okay, and then this area is going to be kind of that whitish gray. Get some of that gray. Go over the black. Doesn't look like much yet. well, what we can do with fur, which is nice, is we can get the texture in, get our values in right, you know, get some light and dark areas in, and then what we can do is play with the color just by glazing over other colors. So we don't have to get it perfect on this first go around. We can kind of get it close, you know, and just try to make sure that we get our texture in where we want it, you know, get these little hairs going in the right direction. And then when we're done with that part, we can go back over everything and shadow and highlight things even more and make it much more dramatic with our glazing. So I'm going to get a little bit of white here. I'll try to pay attention to what I'm seeing in the photograph with my direction of my hairs. Go. Again, I'm going to do a little bit more over here. There we go. A little bit more on the cheek area right here. Get a little bit brighter area right there. Okay. Cute. And then this area, the fur, the tail here, I'm going to go ahead and get the yellow oxide and the raw sienna, and I'm going to put my tail hairs in. And this, I'm going to go over the dark area there. And then as I get to where the dark and the light are kind of mixing, I'm just going to kind of tap and go in between my dark spots that I had. When I did that black, I kind of left a little bit of space in between some of this, so I'm just kind of going in between here and putting this tail fur in here. And then in this area, there's just, it's kind of facing us, so we're only seeing like little bits of the tips of the tail. So I'm just going to tap, and we'll have texture right there. Okay. Get the black. Go. Do the same thing with that. Kind of go over this while it's wet. Kind of blend that out a little bit. And scrubbing it. Okay, there we go. I'm trying to keep these brush strokes all about the same length, if that makes sense. So keeping them all about maybe an inch or so. The ones that are facing us, that are like right in here, will be a little bit shorter. So they'll be about maybe half that size, but I can get some of the raw sienna and unbleached titanium here. And try to get, okay, this needs to dry because it's getting sticky. Okay. So let's go ahead and kind of... You see how this is turning green? That's because the yellow and the black are mixing, so I don't want that to happen. Because those will, yellow and black mix green. So I need to keep those colors separate. I can add brown to my yellow to make it darker, but I don't want to add black. So we'll do that back over. There we go. Get rid of that green. We don't want to have a green tail. Okay, so let's let that set. I'm going to go ahead and use this color, this raw sienna and burnt umber color, and tap it over some of my areas on my squirrel here where I'm seeing a little bit more of this color. And I'm doing it kind of lightly. I'm not trying to cover over the colors, and this is what I was talking about with glazing. It'll tint the fur, but not cover the texture. Get a little bit of the unbleached titanium with this. So right here where it's transitioning from white to this brown, I'm going to kind of just tap. Get some more of that white. And just tap. See that? Tap a little bit over the top of the brown and a little bit over the top of the white. And that'll give me a nice transition between those two colors. Without a hard line. Okay, and then there's a little bit of a dark shadow right here coming off the back of his head. So I want to make sure that that fur back there is a little bit darker. Right there. Okay. He's a cheeky little guy. Cute. We're at 1 hour? Okay. Good. We're making good time, I think. Let's go ahead and do the rest of his belly here with this white. The gray kind of mixed in. Definitely need a little bit more of that kind of black mixed in with it. It's darker. Got a couple areas right in here that's a little bit shadowed. Not really sure why that's like that. It's not supposed to be like that. Just gonna transfer, or we're gonna go over that light area there. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of got these weird transitions between the dark and the light right here, or the gray and the brown, I mean.
So I wonder if this is a gray squirrel or a red squirrel.
I don't know.
Or maybe a farm owl.
Oh, don't start that. Farm tractors only have one front tire, so apparently that's what I was told this week. Because I still cared. Oh my gosh. I love it. Don't stop leaving me comments. They endless endlessly entertaining. I had somebody tell me I could do better on the moon too.
Yeah.
Like, yep, you could do better. I'm like, well, of course I could do better if I had like 4 hours and
Could do worse.
exactly.
But to be
Doing it for a beginner and trying to keep it under an hour, I couldn't do better. That's about as good as it's going to get.
But again, since we're good, upstanding people, we understand that we didn't perform to their level. We did refund them their money.
Right.
And actually, we doubled back their money. Mm-hmm. So they should be happy.
Their free video.
Oh, that's right. It was free. Okay.
Getting white here and going along the tail, edge of the tail, just kind of going back and forth. So I'm getting a nice soft blend on either side of it. If I just did one direction, I might have a little bit thicker line, but if by going back and forth this way and just kind of trying to pay attention to the direction that the fur's, pointing in our photograph here, it's going to look a lot softer doing it that way. We're getting a pretty good soft blend on with this brush. So I'm just going to continue with this until I just kind of usually try to stick with the brush as long as I can, as long as it's doing what I need it to do. So this one seems to be doing an okay job. So until it doesn't, I'm going to continue to let it play. I'm not going to put it on the bench until it messes up. All right, so there we go. So kind of going over the top. And again, if you get a hard line here, you can always go back over it with your dark. So I could go back over, with my dark this way to soften up that edge. If I've got, some thing in there that I don't like, I'm going to bring that light color back in this way a little bit, leaving a little bit of that dark border, but just kind of starting to work in some of these lighter bits into the middle of the fur. In this area, I will be using the other brush because I want it to look nice and soft. So I'm gonna save that last little bit for my fan brush, where I can get a little bit softer blends. Cute. So cute. Okay, burnt sienna. So it's a little bit tricky right in here because there's that little bit of white coming over the top. So I'm going to go ahead and get this. This is the fan brush 10-aught, and I'm going to use this fluid white. And the fluid white's real important because this fan brush is so soft. If you use a really thick paint, it won't come off. So you want it to be so thin and your paint to be fluid enough that it just, without any pressure, you're getting this nice separation of the fur. And with very little pressure, I'm going to do my little extra long hairs here, just in some of these areas where I'm seeing the longer fur. And I need to be careful with this brush because I'm getting these like long lines. You see that? How it was doing like this, these kind of straight lines, which I don't really want. So I need to hold it kind of on its angle so that I get thinner lines. You just have to have a super light touch with these brushes though. You can really overdo it pretty quickly. And then where they start, right here, you can just kind of go and do very short little brush strokes to try to kind of soften up where that line starts. Okay, then in the middle here, I'm just going to kind of use the very tip of the brush, the edge, and do these little shorter, just the very tip of the brush has, or the hair, her hair, his hairs has the little white tips. So I'm going to go in different directions right here, just crisscross all through here, because these are kind of sticking up straight at us, so we're seeing just the very tip of them. And then as they come down here, they're kind of going this way. But right in here, we're just getting these little back and forth. You can just do little X's. See how that does? And that's what makes it look like it's facing us, because we've got, you know, these long hairs, and only this part of it is white. We got black and like tan and then white right here. And then these ones right here are in this area are all kind of facing us, and they're all turned, you know, in different directions and kind of clumping together. So we're seeing lines instead of this, you know, these longer bits of the fur. So instead of seeing this, we're only seeing this. And so you're seeing these little tiny bits here. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think it does.
okay, good. And again, you do too much, add a little bit more black, add a little bit more brown. It's not, you don't have to do it right the first time. You can kind of go back and forth till you get it to where you like it. Not set in stone. And then right here, I want it nice and bright. There's a really bright area of white right here. So I'm just going to get it. It's going to look really bright. But once we get the rest of the tail done and all of the body, it will be. And this will dry a little bit darker too. So I do a little bit brighter right here too. And if you get like a really obvious place right there where you don't like it, you can get some of that black. Make sure it's fluid as well. And go over the starting part with black. So go down into the black where it starts, and then go a little bit over that white edge where that white first starts. And you can kind of camouflage it a little bit.
And you're just barely touching the brush.
I am barely touching. That's how you kind of have to do with these, because otherwise it'll go on too thick.
It's just like if you're like trying to tickle it with just the
exactly.
very tip.
Yep. We were watching that Bob Ross thing, and they were talking about how he was like, make love to the canvas. Soft touches. This just cracked me up.
Maybe butterfly kisses.
I forgot about that. Of course, I was, 8 or 9 when I was watching him, young, so it went over my head. But yeah, he had the ladies watching. I love it. It's like just the softest touch. Good old Bob. Using his little bedroom voice on the ladies. It's great. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty good. Pretty happy with that. I'm probably gonna add a little bit of the lighter yellow up here, but I'm just gonna let that set for now because we've got a lot of layers going on in there. I'm gonna get the white and add it down here because I got some little white in my belly. Here, and just go down below that leaf. Don't worry about where that's gonna be. I'll just put it in later.
What is the number on that fan brush?
It's a 10-aught.
10-aught. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I really like it for fur. It's actually not in my brush sets. In fact, I'm not really sure if they even carry it on at the Brush Guys. Hopefully they do. I think they carry all of the VelvetTouch brushes, but I'm not sure if it's in my list or not. It's kind of a newer one that I just got recently, so probably is not in that list. right, there we go. He's so cute. Getting a little bit of that black and adding that white to it. Just make it like a soft gray. Can use that over here on the arm. Coming down from this part right here. Really, this is just barely, I'm just tapping now. It's just barely, very short little fur hairs. Okay, let's do a little bit on his belly.
And is a fan brush a synthetic brush?
Yes, yes. Yeah, all of the VelvetTouch, I believe, are synthetic. I think the only ones that they have that are like natural hair bristles are their watercolor brushes. The natural hairs are too fine for acrylics. Acrylics are too caustic. They kind of eat away your brushes, so you have to have a synthetic, pretty sturdy brush to withstand that. The fibers of the natural bristle brushes would, one, not be able to push that paint around enough for you, and two, would you know, dissolve and have problems almost immediately. So we'll get the right brush for the right. I really like the VelvetTouch line for acrylics because they're kind of in between their, if you like a shorter handle. My favorite is the 6100 series, but they don't come in the smaller sizes. So I kind of have to do the smaller sizes in the VelvetTouch, and the larger sizes with that one. Okay. Probably a little too much there, but we'll see. You can see how the white kind of darkens as it dries. Even if you put it on bright white, it kind of darkens as it dries. So you may have to do this a couple of times till you get it the brightness that you want in some of these areas. Okay. I'm going to get the raw sienna, a little bit of the yellow oxide for the cheeky. His face is this kind of light yellowish fur color. Cute.
I haven't been keeping track of the cutes. Hopefully somebody has been keeping
It's
account.
been a while. They could play drinking game with this today, probably.
Yeah.
Tracking the cutes. All right. going to switch to a little smaller brush. This is the same as this one that I was using earlier. It's a blender, but it's a little bit smaller, so it's 1/4 inch. This will just give me a little bit more control. I'm getting the burnt sienna and yellow oxide here. I'm just going to tap over and make sure I have like a little fur texture to my little cheeky. He's got some white under here. Get some of that white. And leave just a little bit of that dark. And then the white right here. It's going to look kind of funky at first. So when you're working on this and you get to this point where you're like, this cannot be right. Like, you know, you're going to get to this point where you're like, none of this looks right. Just keep on going. Don't stop. I get people comment, you know, leaving, posting all the time in my Facebook group, you know, where they're like, I think I'm doing something wrong. And they've just got about halfway through and freaked out, you know. And everything, all these paintings, when you're in the middle of the painting process and you got about half your layers on, they're going to all look really weird and wrong. And that's just totally normal. So if you kind of go into it knowing that, it helps you not freak out as much, I think. So get to this point, kind of take a breath, look at it, realize, okay, it's not finished. So we got some more layers to do before we can panic. Don't panic. It's okay. You're not done. Keep on going. Even if it doesn't look like you're doing it right, just follow along the way I'm doing it. We'll get to the other side of this ugly stage. That's what I call it, the ugly stage. So it's kind of funky looking. And your brain's going to be telling you, oh my gosh, you're doing it wrong. It's not good. Stop. You're not an artist. You don't know what you're doing. You know, like all these thoughts will be, at least, you know, for me, that's what I still have been doing this 30 years and I still get to that point sometimes in the painting where I'm like, is this going to work? This does not look good. So totally normal. Push through. You can do it. And, you know, also, if this is your, you know, first, fourth, fifth painting, you're probably not gonna end up with something that looks like mine, maybe, you know, if you're lucky. But it's okay. I mean, if you sat down to play the piano, you would not expect to play it the way your teacher played it, you know. And some reason in art, people think that, you know, that they just don't have talent if they sit down for the first time and they can't do it exactly perfectly, which nobody ever can. That's not, I didn't. I mean, it took me years to, you know, get comfortable with these techniques and painting and stuff. And so it's normal. Don't stress out if it's difficult and you make some mistakes. Well, hopefully you learned a little bit, and next time it'll be a little bit easier, and the next time after that will be easier too. And then, you know, eventually you'll get these techniques and you'll be doing them and you won't even realize, you know, that you ever had trouble doing them. So it's the way of any kind of learning anything new, anything. Let yourself be a beginner. Give yourself a chance to, if you want to do it, you can do it. You just have to practice and push through. It's not, you don't have to have talent for it immediately. You don't have to be born knowing how to do this stuff. Hardly anybody ever is. We all had to work at it. Okay. the main thing that we're doing here, you put your color down and then you put your other color in next to it. So got 2 colors, one here and one here. And then we find a color that's kind of in between. And then we use that to kind of bridge that gap. And just keep doing that back and forth, back and forth. Add one color, add another color, add a color in between where they meet to kind of help soften the transition. And if we keep doing that enough, eventually we're going to get a nice little guy emerging. Just going to take a few layers to get there. It's maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. But he'll eventually start to look like a squirrel and not a mutant. It will get there eventually. Hopefully.
Now, I noticed that you photoshopped the reference photo to remove the lasers.
From the eyes.
Yeah, so...
if they wanted to add laser eyes.
You add them back in, cutting open the acorn with his mutant laser eyes. I can't remember what color were they. Were they blue or red lasers?
Well, the blue would work better with the orange. So
Okay.
I would say probably I would do blue.
Okay.
If you're going to do them. I dare somebody that... should have a contest sometime. Oh my gosh, I keep getting this dark. I did not want that dark there. Okay, I'm just going to wipe that off. Paintbrush got some black in it. Alright, so we're close. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. It's getting a little sticky, and when it gets sticky, it can get a little tricky to manipulate the paint. So we'll get a little bit of black here. And I got the 3 round now. And I'm going to, where is his nose? The bottom of the nose is right in here. Get some burnt umber here. And then the mouth, it looks like, I think he's got a little piece of this nut in his mouth because he's got like a little rounded part right here. I'm not really sure what it is, but just going to do it like that. A little bit of black. I'm going to get a little bit of the burnt orange and kind of soften up that area right there just so it's like a little softer. And then he's got a little smiley cheek right here. It's super cute. So I'm just going to use that kind of dark burnt orange with the black in there to make his little smiley cheek. You have to use that voice when you say it, or it doesn't come out as good. I'm going country voice. The squirrel. Okay. I think I kind of brought that out a little far, but that's okay. It's close enough. There we go. And then I'm just going to kind of use this and put in a few little black hairs. Just using the tip of the brush. Just tapping in little black hairs there. And then let's go ahead and do the eye. So he doesn't look creepy anymore. Although some would argue that he looks creepy with the eye too. So rodent eyes. Getting a little bit of the white and a little bit of the unbleached titanium, or the burnt orange there. So it's just a slight fleshy color, going right up underneath that black. With that outlining. Oops, a little too much there. And then come in, do that little teardrop shape right there. And then the inside is going to be a little bit, let's get a little bit more of that reddish, a little bit fleshy red. And then above it, okay, and then below, we're going to use the unbleached titanium, a little bit of white. I'm going to go right up underneath and do a little, just tap it out so it kind of fuzzes out that edge a little bit, and tap it out at the top too, like kind of just above that reddish line that we did. And then kind of soft, just a little bit right there. Okay. I'm going to get a little bit right here. And then I'm going to get that black and do the inside of his ear with the black. It's kind of a kidney shape, or kind of a shape like that. I don't know. A little bit of the unbleached, or the burnt orange with the white here. Use that in the ear, kind of a pinkish color. And a little bit around the ear canal too. Right there. Let's get a little bit of the darker, a little bit of burnt umber. Add it to that burnt orange. Just add it to the inside of the ear there. Just a little bit darker. And kind of define the outer edge of the ear slightly. Get that burnt umber. Come in front here. Using that white that's kind of not far behind it here, just to kind of soften up the transition between the ear and the fur here. I'm just kind of tapping over the border of it, making sure it's kind of soft, and then come up behind where the ear is, add a little highlight right there, and then there's a little highlight at the tip of the ear too. So I'm going to go right at the top, highlight right there where it comes down and around.
And which brush are you doing this work with right now?
Three round.
VelvetTouch?
3 round.
3 round. Thank you.
Yep.
4 round comes in the package that somebody could win tomorrow.
Yeah, you could use the 4 instead.
Oh, so they got to play bingo, win the brushes, and then they'll have what they need.
Exactly.
Easy peasy.
That burnt orange on its own is a little too red or too pink, so just adding a little bit of burnt umber color over the top to soften that up. Okay. That ear looks really weird. I think I'm going to soften up this. Not so black. It's black, but not so black. A little bit of brown in there. Okay, use that white with what's left in my brush here, just tapping in on this ear, the highlight. Get a little bit of yellow oxide or raw sienna, either one. Use that. Use a little bit of it on this part of the ear right there. Okay. It's a little bit of a highlight coming through right there, so I'm going to get some of my white with my burnt orange, burnt umber, burnt sienna, that kind of light peachy white. Just highlight that little area right there. Use my finger to tap it out there. There we go. Softening up around it with the burnt sienna here. Okay, I think that's better. Getting some white and the yellow oxide here. Gonna tap in right underneath the ear and in front of it with some of that coming down. And I'm doing the head kind of behind the ear here, on the back of the head there. Small little brush strokes. There we go. Okay, let's see if I can get some of these small brush strokes with this raw sienna yellow oxide. I'm going to add a little bit of white so I have a little bit of both colors on here. And went back to my fan brush now. Yeah, this fur goes out up the nose and back, so we're gonna go right past the eyes. It's gonna be pointing back toward the back in this direction. And this one's going up this way. It's kind of meeting up with it, pushing up. So a little bit white, soppy. It's kind of watery there. All right, I'm gonna get the black, kind of. There. And then my little side of his face here, got that white and gray right here. It's kind of coming up almost toward the eyes, but I'm just really going to just kind of tap and lift just slightly as I tap. And I'm going to go ahead and go around the eye there too. I'm just going to soften that whole section up a little bit. Cute. Getting some white. And this should just be kind of one of the last layers now, just to kind of firm up the direction of the fur and leave our highlights there. And then on the cheek right here, we're just seeing more like kind of yellowish. So I'm going to get some of that white and add a little bit of yellow. And a little bit of that yellow oxide. Or raw sienna, or both. And I still have a little bit of that gray in there, so just be careful not to turn your fur green. If you've got too much black in there, it'll turn green when it mixes with the yellow. Keep an eye on that. Okay, and then I'm going to get the burnt sienna, add some water, and I realize I'm holding my breath as I'm doing this. It's like, I hadn't taken a breath in a while. Breathe.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because we've mentioned it before, but you know, when you're painting, you want to be kind of relaxed because that kind of translates to your brush strokes.
Yeah, it does.
If you're all, like you said before, if you're all tense and all that stuff, then it could have a negative effect.
Right. You have a harder time getting smooth lines and things, smooth blends, thinner lines. I'm going to use this and just kind of tap out around the edges of this just to kind of pull off just a little bit of the extra so that it leaves a little bit more of that and just kind of soften up that color. Okay, I think that's good. We use a little bit of this color in the arm down here. And then do the same thing, just kind of brush through it, or you could glaze this too. This color's going on a little bit heavy, so I could add some glazing medium, the burnt sienna, and use that. It'll go on a little bit more thin, a little bit more transparent like. See how when you go over that white especially, it's really obvious. Right, and I think I need some more yellow right here on the cheeks. I'm going to get some of the Indian Yellow Hue and some of my white. And then I'm going to do right here. That. Very small little brush strokes.
It's a very tense moment right now in the painting. Remain focused.
I know, we're sorry.
It's okay.
Get the burnt umber here. I'm going to go maybe a little bit of the black. Just there's a little bit of a dark line right here.
It's kind of like that person who sent that really awesome message earlier this week about you helping them sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, which was absolutely amazing.
It is, I know.
Person's had an issue with sleeping for years and so forth, and listening to Angela's videos has done what medication can't.
Yeah, puts her to sleep.
And we've had people fall asleep in the middle of shows before.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, it's well, you get into that. I do too. I mean, I not fall asleep, but I mean, I get into that.
You sleep during your shows?
No, I get into that Zen state of mind, when I'm painting. And I think that's what is translating, is that kind of calm that comes over you when you're kind of focused and time kind of disappears and you don't realize how much time has lapsed. And that's why I was late picking up my kids just from school sometimes. It would be painting, and if I didn't, I had to set an alarm, because if I would just be like, oh, I'll remember. No, I would not. I would be so focused, and in the middle of things, I would forget what time it was. Lose track of hours. It's amazing. All right. I'm getting very nitpicky here. I need to stop. I need to just move on. All right. I'm going to, let me see. Let's go ahead and use I'm going to use the angle, but I think I'm just going to stick with this 3 round here. Let's do our fingers and our little nut here. So the nut is like a burnt umber, burnt sienna, almost black in some places. You could probably, I don't know, it wouldn't make sense for his hands to be in this shape, though. I guess if you left it out, I was going to say you could leave it out, but kind of have to have it to make sense of his hands.
I mean, are they hands?
Mm-hmm.
Are they paws, or are they...
Maybe they're paws. I don't know.
I've really never given it much thought.
Use a little bit of the light color at the top there. And I'm going to highlight the nut right here. Get some white, and it's got some flesh open there. He's cute. He's been nomming on that nut there. What?
I was Googling up squirrel anatomy, and the first picture I clicked on must be done by you.
Really?
Yes, because it's like pointing to the mouth and it says nut nibbler. And then to the front paws it says nervous scratchy cling thingies. And then for the back side it says bouffant twitching flit brush.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Technical. I like that person. That we're on the same wavelength, obviously.
And then to the face it says expression of abject terror.
Cute. Love it. Yeah, we come up with some interesting names for things when I'm in the middle of painting. Okay, using the burnt orange here. I'm going to add a little bit of the white to it. I'm going to add that to my nut color here. Just a little bit of that reddish tone. Oh, he's so cute. Can't stand it. All right, make sure you reinforce this little cheeky thing going on right here because it's super cute. I just added just a little bit more burnt umber and stuff to make it obvious. So our hands are dark. I'm going to get kind of burnt umber here and kind of start with that and just sort of brush it out towards the hands some. Towards the body, I mean, there. Get it dark. And then I'm going to use the white and a little bit of the black for like a light gray. And just kind of very roughly, I'm not going to get super detailed with these. I'm just going to kind of tap in with the general shape and call it good. Don't get too fancy with it. You're not going to see a ton of detail anyways. These are almost dark, you know, there's just a little bit of highlight on them, so getting a little bit of black there. I'm gonna tap in my little fur. This one under here is like black and it's got a little curved little claw, and then this one, the claw is coming down this way. We can add a little bit of black in between if we need to. And then let's add our little highlights. So get a little bit of white, just roll that brush to a tip. So I got a nice little bit of white on the tip, and I'm just going to drag it to create my little nails. Some of them aren't highlighted. See that? And then a little bit here and you're done. too much. Just a few little. That's it. And then right here, we've got a weird, transition here. So just take some of the color right here, the burnt umber, burnt sienna, and make that transition, just dabbing over with little brush strokes towards the hand. And make sure you put some on top of the hand and then some opposite in the opposite direction, so that you're going to get a little cross section of overlap. I'm going to go over this area here a little bit. Lost my hairs here when I added that burnt umber. There we go. And then anywhere where you're seeing that you don't have, like, hairs obvious, you can go back over and just add little bitty ones with this brush. Make sure you've got, everything kind of facing the right way and going in the right direction. Let's go ahead and put our highlights in our eye. That'll make a big difference. Don't want to forget that. Oops, I covered over a little bit of that eye. I'm going to get my black and put that back in. There we go. So a little bit of the highlight color, a little bit right there on the inside of the eye, and a little bit right here. A little bit right here on that lid. Okay, looks a little creepy, but we'll get there. We'll get there. We can add a little bit of blue too. Sometimes I like to add blue in the highlights of the eye, like the sky colors picking up in the eye. So just a tiny touch of ultramarine blue with my titanium white and gloss glazing liquid to thin it out. You could use zinc white instead if you wanted to. This is that's a transparent white, but this is the only place I was going to need it, so I didn't add it to my list of colors. So just dabbing in a little bit of transparent color right there. Then I'm going to get the brightest white on my tip of my brush, just kind of run it into that deep part of my paints, roll it to a point. So I got just a little bit of white on the tip. I'm going to use it right there. Maybe right here, just a little. There we go. Little bright little highlights. If you get too much, just use your finger and dab it off with your finger. So that one looked a little bright. Just dab it off with my finger. There. So he's got little highlights in his eye. Everything looks good. His hands look all right. Fairly happy with the tail. I think right in here, he probably could use a little bit more gray. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of that gray and just kind of very lightly kind of go over this just a little bit with some gray. Not want to go on, so I'm going to get a little bit of white, a little bit of water, a little bit of black, a little bit of white, so I have both colors on here. There we go. Okay, let's give him some leaves and we'll be done. Well, how long have we gone? Almost 2 hours. Okay. Got a little bit left to do on some leaves and we'll be done. Not bad. I wanted to be around 2 hours, so we got there. I think pretty close. As usual, I kind of got slowed down by the details. I always do.
It is much appreciated.
I get focused. adding some cadmium yellow with the burnt sienna here to this leaf. And get some burnt umber and the burnt orange here. Do some dark leaves that kind of crisscross here. So some of them are going to come up over our squirrel, and if they don't show up, then just add a little bit of white. White will make them opaque. So big leaf right here that's kind of orangey. I'm going to get some of the raw sienna, burnt sienna. And at this point, if you wanted to, you could transfer on your leaf design. So, you know, if you've covered over your leaves, you can transfer those back on if you don't want to have to paint these in by hand or by guess, you know, like I'm doing. However you want to do it. And they're kind of out of focus too, so you don't have to be super detailed with these. I'm going to get a little bit of white with my yellow here and do this one over here, like a little bit of yellow. But I am kind of fading out the edges so that they kind of just blend into the background a little bit. If you watched our pumpkin from the other day, we kind of did our leaves this way. Kind of a nice way of doing it because it kind of keeps it sort of soft and not too much detail. Makes everything look kind of out of focus almost. Gonna get a little bit more of that brighter yellow, maybe a little bit of orange. So the Indian yellow hue, a little bit of orange. There we go. Darker red coming up in front. A little bit of burnt umber. Create some shadows. Little lines for veins. Just using very thin edge of my brush to do some little veiny like things. So that got a little gray. Literally just lightly brushing through here. Let's go ahead and give this guy a little bit of, didn't end up using my burnt or my Quinacridone Magenta, so you could probably leave that one off your list. That back side of the leaf is kind of reddish, burnt. So do that and then get my lighter color, and it's got a little highlight on top.
So do you do that consciously? And that is, I noticed that you were kind of moving the brush without actually painting anything before you touched the canvas. So were you trying to get
I kind of try to get the feel for where I'm going to put it.
Okay.
Trying to visualize a little bit when I'm doing it this way and I'm kind of winging it. I kind of need to sort of figure out where I want to put stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, I kind of do that sort of practice, almost practice strokes.
Kind of like a practice golf stroke.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Actually, very similar. All right. I think we're just about done. He turned out cute. Oh, I need to do his little whiskers. Don't forget the whiskers. So getting a little bit of black. And he's got little whisker holes. Going through here. And then make sure that you thin this out really well. I got the 3/0 round or liner brush, whatever works for you. I'm going to do all kinds of little, and make sure when you do these that you crisscross them. So they should go in different directions. There's some off of his eyebrows right there. I should have. I don't like that. I'm going to try those over again. I need them longer. I waited too long. I'm going to make them a little bit longer. It's okay.
It is.
And getting some white too, because there's some little white ones. Doing some in this direction and with the white over. Whoop, a little too thick. Add more water. If they go on thick, that means you just don't have enough water because you're having to press down to get them to come off your brush. So there we go. I'm going to do some over the top of some of these with the white to kind of hide them. Okay. Let me do one more over here. The black. There we go. Normally I wouldn't go over the lines again because you can end up with really thick lines, but I didn't erase them fast enough, so I had to. you go ahead and get the burnt umber now with my glaze. And one last thing here. I'm just going to use the burnt umber to add my shadows in some areas here. So just add some dark shadows underneath the fur in little areas. Add your add a little bit of black to it too to make sure it's dark enough. But all these areas where we see the shadows, you could add it in the cheek if you needed to, or in front of the ear here, seeing inside the ear. You can add some on the front of the nose if you need to, like this area is dark. You can add some in the tail, like especially like right back in here. If you need this area to be a little bit darker along the body, you can add some down here. Ideally do this before you do your leaves, but you get the idea. All right, I'm going to sign it.
What's you shaking?
This is the PBO acrylic marker. Probably saying that wrong. Super chat. What?
Super chat.
Nice.
I need one of those air horn ones.
No, please no.
Oh, okay. Today's super chat was from Christina, and she says, "Hi again. This is because you guys are so funny and adorable, and ... for Stickman comeback. Love." Thank you, Christina. Thank you for your appreciation of the finer things in life.
You are starting a Stickman comeback revolution in the chat, I think.
I swear.
I think you are
I say nothing.
instigating.
I am. Nope.
Okay. We'll see. I'm not going to promise anything. I'm going to go over this area just a little bit with that dark orange sienna color. He turned out cute. I like him. He's adorable. Really, his color is almost blue right in here. So if you wanted to add a little bit of burnt or ultramarine blue here, you could glaze a little bit of that on there too. But I think I'm going to stop there. I'm pretty happy with it, I think. Actually, I said that. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to go ahead and...
If you're new to Angela's channel and you were really thinking we were done, you're an amateur.
Sorry.
But that's okay. We know when she says, "Okay, I'm done." We know.
I see things. As soon as I say I'm done, I start seeing things that I've missed. So that back there needed a little bit of a definition. It was a little bit too dark right there. Okay, there we go. Cute. I hope you guys try it. We did a little chipmunk last year that would go really good with this guy. I think they would be really cute together. So I really enjoyed sharing it with you. I'm going to... Oh, I just saw something else right here. There's a big white highlight. Well, look, on his body, there's a big white highlight right here, and I missed it. Yeah. So I'm going to do that really quick right here. I'm going to just highlight that.
It's one of the first things I noticed.
Quiet.
No, but thank you, everybody, for showing up, your support, your likes, your subscriptions, your support on Patreon is continuing to be amazing.
Yes.
Again, tomorrow for the $5 and up patrons, we'll be finishing up the sunflowers.
Yes.
And we got bingo. The cards were...
Thank you for 300,000 subscribers. Mm-hmm. We hit 300,000 subscribers this summer, and we meant to do bingo then, and it just never happened. And so we finally getting around to doing it. So
we got that going on tomorrow, and then next Thursday is the $10 patrons, right? You'll be finishing up that painting?
Next Thursday, yes. We'll be finishing up our kitty cat in the leaves, and he's definitely in the ugly stage still. He's looking a little creepy. But yeah, he would go along with this series too. And we have an owl that we did last year that is in the leaves like that too. So got a lot of animals in leaves this year.
Right. And as Angela said before, while we're doing the show today, it's towards the end of September. So you may want to wait if you're planning on joining Patreon, because it is a monthly subscription.
Yes, it
But,
is.
if you're watching this in the future sometime, check your calendar.
Right. And yeah, if you want to play bingo, then it'll have to sign up for that tomorrow. But we've got the information about that on Patreon. So if you're a patron and you haven't gotten your card yet, you should have gotten an email notification, and my newsletter had some stuff about it. But check on Patreon, and it'll have information about how to get your card and play tomorrow. It'll be fun. All right, I'm just fiddling here.
And you can find the way to sign up for the newsletter over there on thankfulart.com.
Yes, and the newsletter comes with all kinds of goodies too. If you sign up for it, you get a color chart and some other stuff. So it's a lot of fun. All right, I am just making a mess of this now. There we go. All right, I'm going to stop there. I promise this time. For real. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye.